You're 51. This is the retirement plan I'd use to retire by 57. There's a version of you at 51 sitting with a calculator you don't need, running the same question over and over. Is 57 possible for me? Not because the numbers say no, because nobody built you a plan for the years between here and there. The traditional playbook, max the 401k, own a balanced portfolio, pay down the mortgage, was designed with 65 in mind. It's sound advice for a longer runway. It leaves an 8-year gap when you're aiming for 57, and gaps like that don't announce themselves early. They show up the year you finally stop, when there's no more time left to close them. I've spent my career sitting across the table from people trying to leave earlier than the system expects, not because I collected a credential that says I'm allowed to help, because I've watched the specific spot where good intentions and outdated timelines collide, and I've built a way through it more times than I can count. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll see the exact pieces that close that gap, the ones almost nobody puts in place until the timing has already cost them something. No penalties, no health insurance scramble, no decision forced on you by a calendar you didn't choose. One shift is worth making early instead of late. 57 has less to do with the balance you're staring at and more to do with whether the plan accounts for the years before the milestones arrive. The financial system has 3 major dates: 59 and a half, 62, and 65. And none of them line up with the date you'd actually like to stop. Getting there early doesn't mean waiting for the system to catch up to you. It means building bridges that carry you across those gaps, years before you'll ever need to cross them. I think of a couple I'll call Mark and Diane, both 51, both maxing their 401ks, proud of the number and nervous about the timeline underneath it. When we mapped their savings against a 57 exit, 3 separate gaps surfaced: health coverage, the stretch before penalty-free access opened up, and the reported income that would spike their insurance costs the moment they touched a large pre-tax account. None of it came from a shortage of savings. It came from an account structure built for the wrong exit date. Once we redirected where new dollars were headed, building a taxable account with intention, funding a health savings account without touching it, and adjusting the split between pre-tax and Roth contributions, the picture changed. Not from earning more, from architecture finally matching the date they wanted. 5 years later, Mark left his job on a Friday in March. There was no scramble for coverage that Monday, no call to figure out where the next paycheck shaped deposit would come from. The plan had already answered those questions years earlier. What was left for them to feel was the actual weight of the decision, not the logistics underneath it. When you work backward from a 57 exit, 5 pieces tend to carry the most weight. The first is a taxable brokerage account built on purpose. It's the only account with no age restriction and no required distribution, which makes it the one account that gives you control over how much income you report each year. A detail that becomes valuable the moment you're relying on a health insurance marketplace instead of an employer plan. The second is a health savings account used as a long-term reservoir instead of a spending account. Contributions lower your taxable income today. Growth inside stays untaxed, and withdrawals for medical costs stay untaxed permanently. Pay medical bills out of pocket while you're earning, save every receipt, and let the account grow untouched. Decades later, you can reimburse yourself without losing a dollar of that tax treatment. The third is the balance between pre-tax and Roth contributions in your final earning years. Your highest earning years are usually your highest tax bracket years, which makes pre-tax contributions valuable right now. Alongside that, you want enough flexibility on the Roth and brokerage side that a large pre-tax balance doesn't force you to report more income than your health coverage can absorb once you stopped earning a paycheck. This is also where the years before Medicare become useful in a different way. They are often the cheapest window you'll ever get to convert pre-tax dollars to Roth before required withdrawals in your 70s force the decision at a worse state. The fourth is a cash reserve built 2 to 3 years ahead of your exit date, covering 12 to 18 months of spending. It closes the shortest gap, the stretch before retirement accounts open up penalty-free, and it does something beyond the math. It keeps your first year steady without market timing, without selling under pressure, without a decision made from anxiety instead of a plan. The fifth is a decision that gets skipped far too often: when to claim Social Security. Leaving your job at 57 doesn't mean claiming at 62. Every year you delay past 62 raises your monthly benefit, and because that benefit adjusts for inflation every year afterward, a larger starting number compounds into a meaningfully larger income for the rest of your life, and potentially for your spouses through the survivor benefit. The brokerage account and cash reserve exist partly to make that delay possible. You spend from what you built while the benefit grows untouched in the background, then let it turn on once the math favors it. One more gap worth naming honestly, because it arrives later than the others. Once Medicare begins at 65, the premium you pay depends on income recorded 2 years earlier. A large Roth conversion or an oversized withdrawal in the wrong year can raise that premium well past what you'd expect without much warning, a rule known as IRMA. It's not a reason to avoid converting. It's a reason to convert with a plan instead of converting by instinct. Watching the income thresholds the same way you'd watch the ACA subsidy cliff in your late 50s and early 60s. If you're in your 50s and wondering whether 57 is realistically within reach for your specific numbers, that's a conversation worth having early while there's still time to build the pieces rather than react to the gaps later. If that's useful, reach out and we can look at your situation together. Retiring at 57 was never only about the number in your account. It's about whether the years between now and then were used to build something that holds. The years you're picturing, the ones with energy and health and time in equal measure, have a window, and that window is worth planning around while you can still shape it, not after it's already narrowing. Build the bridges now, and 57 stops being a hope and starts being a date on the calendar.